This is Made in America with Neil Asbury and Rich Rothman.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. So Rich, a big week, a very big week in business. Definitely a lot of things coming about right now. A lot of earnings are coming out. And if you've seen some of the retailers, I mean, they're getting hammered. They're getting hammered. I mean, look at Amazon. What they said that increased logistics costs cost them $2 billion in Q1. And their actually sales are down and they lost money. And so, you know, and then you see the retailers. Wayfair came out with some very, very poor numbers. Of course, Bed Bath & Beyond, they're in trouble anyway.
They've been in trouble for a while.
They've been in trouble for a while.
Yeah.
But the retail sector in America is starting to show some stress. And I think that we've just, you know, so much demand was out there, and then so much product was bought into the United States, you know, because there was this logistics crisis. The warehouses are bulging. I mean, they've just got so much product, and the demand that you've seen in the surge during COVID has kind of worn off. And you got all this product out there that's got to be take time to get into the market before things could get back to normal. But then you got inflation and everything else that's going on, in just a crisis of confidence in the American people.
Well, you know, I think right now people are so stressed out. I mean, this is a very stressful time. This is not a good time. And I think people are very much on edge. They're not quite sure where they're going. You know, they're hearing, whether they comprehend exactly what it's going to be, depending on the person, that the federal, you know, I hope they know what the Fed is, but the Fed raised rates, and everyone's saying, oh, this is the biggest rate in, you know, many years. And in a way it isn't, in a way it isn't, because inflation is so high. So the disparity between the two, I mean, it's not going to solve the problem.
Rich, when they did that, the stock market boomed.
900 points. That's
yeah. You know, I mean, isn't it counterintuitive?
Well, they did that because he didn't raise it 75 basis points. They thought they're going to go for 75 basis points.
So they only went 50 basis points.
And then they're going to go 50, 50, 25 or something like that. You know, it's a good thing. You know, I'm really happy that when Trump's first year was there, that they decided with no inflation showing that they had to raise it 4 times in the first year.
Well, we're going to hear from later on in the show. We got a soundbite from our good friend Kevin Hassett. He's former head of Trump's economic advisors team. I mean, he's been on our show a few times. Great guy. And he has a statement out this week that inflation could be at 20%, and we're going to be looking a lot like Argentina if we don't get this thing under control. But anyway, that's going to come up here in just a little while. But Rich, we got a piece this week really caught your eye. You said, boy, we got to get this guy on the show. We did exactly that. He published a piece, Make America Make Again. Not great again, make America make again, as in manufacture again. As an American manufacturer, I think that would be great. The problem is that nobody knows how to do that. I mean, we got all these politicians out there with their
there are people that know how to do that. Unfortunately, not running the country
with their rhetoric, and you know, they just put out some sound bites, and that's, you know, just because of who they are, you know, everything's going to fall in place, but it doesn't happen like that. But we're very pleased to have with us Steve Malanga. He is the City Journal's editor, and he's with the Manhattan Institute. And Manhattan Institute, City Journal is part of Manhattan Institute, and they do some really, really great work. He's a well-published man. He's got a number of books out, and he's with us right now. Steve, welcome to Made in America.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Well, you know, we're gonna do a flashback here back to when President Trump was running for president. He wasn't president yet. And President Obama, who wanted to critique some of the things that Trump was saying about bringing our jobs back and so on and so forth. And basically, President Obama just threw in a towel, like it was like completely impossible thing to do. Let's listen to President Obama.
For those folks who've lost their job right now because a plant went down to Mexico, you know, that isn't going to make you feel better. And so what we have to do is to make sure that folks are trained for the jobs that are coming in now, because some of those jobs of the past are just not going to come back. And when somebody says, like the person you just mentioned, who I'm not going to advertise for, that he's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What are you going to do? There's no answer to it. He just says, well, I'm going to negotiate a better deal. Well, how exactly are you going to negotiate that? What magic wand do you have? And usually the answer is he doesn't have an answer.
Well, there it is, the magic wand.
Magic wand.
The magic wand quote. But you can bring American jobs back, American manufacturing jobs. That's what you say, make America make again. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a really telling quote. And I'd like to say that at the time that he made that statement, well, American manufacturers were already in the process of what's become known as reshoring, the idea of bringing manufacturing jobs back. Well, why are they bringing them back? First of all, many of the jobs, there are a lot of reasons the jobs left, but costs were a big part of it. So two things. One thing is the cost of overseas labor was rising, making America somewhat more competitive. And at the same time, more importantly, the American natural gas boom was lowering the cost of energy, which is a big component of manufacturing in the United States, making us much more competitive in that area with countries around the world, in Europe especially, that don't produce their own natural gas, that are reliant on Russia, for instance, for natural gas. All of those things were already bringing jobs back. What Trump said a lot of things, and some of them were controversial. You remember when Carrier announced around the time that he was going to be inaugurated that they were taking jobs away. You beat them over the head and was very harsh on them and said, we got a negotiated deal. And that's not necessarily a national policy, but there was one thing that the Trump administration did that I thought was very, very significant. They listened to manufacturers who have been saying for the past 30 to 40 years that the federal government every month, every year, puts more and more regulations on manufacturing companies, making it more difficult, raising the cost, and driving jobs overseas, even though a lot of these regulations are, for instance, environmental regulations, and even though we have all these new technologies which are essentially cleaning up our factories, cleaning up our emissions, we continue to keep these regulations on. And what Trump said is, we're going to study this, and we're going to start cutting back on these regulations. And there's such a thing as the Manufacturers' Optimism Index, which is a monthly poll. The Manufacturers' Optimism Index, as soon as Trump took office, started soaring. It went from 60 to 96, 60 when Obama left office, to 96. It was a 20-year high in optimism, and manufacturers anticipating that the government was going to get off their back to a certain extent actually started investing, and we saw jobs growing. So yes, you can bring jobs back in America, and maybe one of the first things we do is think about the burden that the federal government has placed on manufacturers, even while politicians are saying we want jobs to come back.
You see, the problem to me, you're 100% correct, of course, I agree with you. But when I listen to the soundbite from President Obama, and what really stands out to me is that he didn't get it. He didn't even know why, at least from his words, he didn't know why. Well, how are you going to bring it back? Well, if he says that means he doesn't know why they left. And he didn't know why they left because it sounds like the arrogance of his comments were getting in the way of him internalizing what really was the problem. And the problem was, as you explained it, it just became too onerous to produce and manufacture here. The taxes were going crazy and so forth. So if he doesn't see that, then that's a big problem. The fact that Trump brought a group of people together with people who actually had business experience. Peter Navarro was around for that. Larry Kudlow was there, Art Laffer was there, Steve Moore was there. He had people with hands-on understanding what was going on in the real world, not just academia. And I think, that helped, President Trump understand, as you said, what's wrong and what do we have to do to fix it. Because you know what, Steve, he approached it as a businessman. That's what I think.
Well, let me add one thing. I don't know if Obama didn't understand, or if we consider the Biden administration as an extension of the Obama administration. You look at what they're doing. If rather Obama and Biden cannot embrace the right policies because they upset the people who helped elect them. If you look at the Biden policy, they put out this big paper about supply chains back in last June, addressing supply chains. And it's all about, we're going to bring jobs back here by creating, quote, good jobs. as if manufacturing jobs that already exist aren't good jobs in America. And you know that what this is all about is actually increasing the costs in order to essentially focus manufacturing jobs on unionized jobs. They want unionized jobs because those are the organizations that support them. And so they have this ridiculous, whole section in their piece about bringing jobs back to America. But we have to make them jobs more high quality jobs, which quote means more expensive jobs. Now the thing is, if you look at these non-union plants that are being opened up in the South, these car manufacturing plants, for instance, I just saw one of them that was announced. I think it was in Kentucky. Their starting salary is going to be $62,000 a year for a manufacturing job. So these jobs are good jobs, whether they're unionized or not.
Steve, let's take a quick break. We're with Steve Malanga. He's from the Manhattan Institute. Still a lot more to talk about your jobs and getting them back to America. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is Neil Asbury together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman, and we have with us right now Steve Malanga from the Manhattan Institute. He's also the senior editor at City Journals. And let's continue this conversation. I mean, very, very, very good, very, very passionate. I love it. Lots of energy here today. Let's listen to another good friend of our show, been with us a number of times, Larry Kudlow, senior advisor to President Trump. You see him a lot now in the media, doing all kinds of commentary. Let's listen to what he had to say about the Biden administration and their jobs policy.
They won't make any changes, Mercy. They won't change the key players, and they won't change the policies. That's the most amazing thing. Well, if you keep doing something and it fails, isn't that one of the definitions of insanity?
Well, there you go, Steve. I mean, he's really talking about the same thing that you are. The constituents of the Democrat Party, right? They won't change anything. And everybody they have in a position of power are put there by the left of the left wing, the most radical, progressive administration we've ever had. They won't change. They won't change.
No, you're absolutely right. And frankly, again, the environmental issue is almost, a religious cult now to them. And the problem with that is, one of the things I have these numbers in my article, because of technological innovation, because of cleaner energy, because of cleaner plants, cleaner burning plants, our actual, pollution in the United States has declined enormously. I mean, like literally the particulates in the air over cities is declined by 90% since the 70s. I mean, I remember that when I was a young financial reporter, like in the early 90s, the cities were talking about how are they going to possibly comply with the Clean Air Act. Well, they all complied now. They all reached their goals merely because of technological innovation. The problem is that as we've had that progress, the environmental lobby has become unrelenting, and we need more, we need more, we need more. Rather than saying, when was the last time you read an article that said, "Oh, great, we hit our goals, therefore we could take our foot off the pedal, we could reduce these burdens," which I have numbers in the story about what the cost of this. Of some of these regulations are, how they add to the cost of manufacturing and therefore drive jobs overseas to places that don't have these regulations that actually pollute a lot more than we do because we have better technology. So it's unrelenting. You never hear on the left, particularly in environmentalism, you never hear them say, "Boy, we hit our targets. Boy, our technology is really working. Now let's take our foot off the pedal a little bit and let's create some jobs. Let's take advantage of this new technology." There's none of that. It's always unrelenting. We have to do less. We have to do less. And really, they could not care less about manufacturing jobs, about blue-collar jobs. This is one of the reasons why, in an upside-down world, at least from my perspective, for all the years I've been watching politics, the blue-collar tradesman in America has now become a Republican, and why not? Because Democrats are killing their jobs.
Well, that's exactly correct. So I totally agree. Now, let me ask you a question. When you throw in where Biden's going right now, and we're talking about eliminating the Trump tax cuts, you're putting fuel on the fire. It's not just the regulations that are onerous, but would you start reducing the tax? Listen, the tax cuts helped convince corporations to come back to the United States. They repatriated. They brought their monies back. They had a fair shot to bring the money into this country, invest it, create jobs, and then get it break. The tax cuts encourage them to make this investment. Now, Kudlow has been talking about this, save the tax cuts. I mean, he's out there. That's his thing. Save, save, save. Right now it's save the children. But save the tax cuts. Now, what's going to happen if we eliminate these tax cuts while we're increasing regulations? He said we're going to go ahead and open up land for, drilling, and that's great and wonderful. It's about 1/3 what they wanted. And then, of course, you can't get a permit anyway. So what's going to happen with these tax cuts? They're going to be gone, and then we're going to be screwed again.
Right, and in my story, I quote a number of manufacturers who specifically talk about the 2017 tax cuts and how they use that extra money. Let me just give you this quote. Here's a guy at a big manufacturer in the Midwest saying, "We have not had 1 year since 2017 without raises or an increase in benefits. That's because the company has been doing pretty well, reaping the benefits from the economy and tax reform." Right, so that's like a direct connection. All right, and you and I know that obviously if you give a company, if you cut a company's taxes, right, it's not like they're going to go stuff the money in a mattress somewhere. It's not like they're going to light cigars with dollar bills. They're going to put that money back into the company and in their companies, and that's exactly what happened. So there are a whole bunch of policies that I talk about. Tax reform is one of them, but this other policy that is driving manufacturers crazy, along with a lot of other employers, but especially manufacturers, is the Biden administration wants to get more and more social benefits that act as a disincentive to work. And most people don't understand that this isn't just a problem with, paying the bill for that because it's the government that pays the bill, but it's also a problem because companies are having trouble hiring people. And so, for instance, let me give you an example. One of the things that's driving manufacturers crazy is this Biden proposal, which I don't think is hopefully will not become law, to lower the age at which you qualify for Medicare from 65 to 60. The manufacturers are worried because their workforce, their skilled workforce, is older, averaging like in their 50s. And they're worried about mass resignations if the Biden administration does that, because we're having trouble finding skilled workers now. The last thing we need are more disincentives to work.
And we got to end right now. Okay, I can't ask it, but I will ask it the next time. We got to get you back. Steve Malanga from the Manhattan Institute. We really appreciate you being with us. Unfortunately, though, we're out of time.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
We really enjoyed it. Coming up, we have Ray Keating, who's the chief economist at the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. We're going to talk about Small Business Week. A great segue. Talk to you soon.
Promoting American industry. This is Made in America with Neil Asbury and Rich Rothman.
Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Hey, it was great to have Steve Milanga with us. I mean, what a great guest.
Wasn't that fun?
Manhattan Institute.
He's so good.
They do a lot of great work. And boy, is he all amped up. And during this very, very important and special week of the year, Small Business Week. So it's only appropriate that we're talking about small business. And in that regards, we have Ray Keating, chief economist at the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council, joining us right now. Ray, welcome to Made in America.
Guys, happy Small Business Week. How are you?
Good. Hey, well, I'm a small business and Rich is a small business, so we definitely are plugged into that. And boy, are we going through all sorts of one crisis to the next. Boy, we're just going to be so hardened after. I don't know if it's ever going to end.
The word is calloused. I am calloused.
Yeah,
decided. Scaring my wife, by the way. I came home and said, I am calloused.
Just when you thought you saw it all, right? Just when you thought you saw it all.
I get through the pandemic, and then I find out there are no products. There's nothing I can do. It's like, oh, this isn't fair. This is unfair. I didn't study this.
Brutal.
Oh my God.
But let's start off the segment, Ray. Kevin Hassett, a good friend of ours, been on our show a number of times. He was former head of President Trump's economic advisors team, very important position within the Trump administration. And he was interviewed this week, and this is what he had to say about inflation. Listen to this.
We're starting to look like Argentina, and we're in Argentina's space because Joe Biden has been mailing checks to people since he got into office, or mailing checks to people in government that want to do stuff, and the Fed has been printing money to pay for that, and so we've been running kind of an Argentina-like policy, and now we're looking at 20% inflation, and so it'll tick back down. But wages will try to keep up with it. Before you know it, you're at a wage price spiral. I think that there's just no way there's a soft landing.
No way there's a soft landing. And I think that Kevin has said something very wise. I mean, with the inflation, whatever it's at, it's much greater than what wage increases have been. And wage increases have been very, very strong. I mean, just in our company, I know that, I'm the one who has to authorize this. I'm not seeing anything like it, but still inflation is more. So small businesses is getting hit by inflation, by wage increases, by supply chain crisis, the freight, all the issues around the world with getting their products and their components, their raw materials, the resins, so on and so forth. Just a crazy time. What do you think is the biggest thing facing small business? If there was one or two issues, where would you start?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first off, I'm not quite where Kevin is. Kevin has really depressed me. Well, inflation right now is number one, the number one concern when you look at what small businesses are dealing with in terms of rising input costs. How much can they raise prices with consumers and maintain markets? Investors, they're looking for investors, and investors face uncertainty with interest rates. And let's remember, capital gains aren't indexed for inflation. So the capital gains tax rate, guess what? The real tax rate climbs a heck of a lot higher when we have inflation. So inflation always causes big problems, and it's causing big problems right now. And then I think after that, you've got to look over at what's going on in terms of the White House and Congress. Rather than providing relief to entrepreneurs and small businesses, the engines of our economy, they're looking at higher taxes, more regulation, more government interference. So it's the exact opposite policy agenda that you would want in an inflationary environment. It's kind of interesting that the Fed finally woke up that, we've got inflation now. So they've at least woken up to it. I'm not quite sure if they're, what they're going to do. I think half of their agenda is on target. The other half I have real questions about. But it's a tough time, a lot of uncertainty, and everything on the policy front is just making it worse.
Well, you're right. Now that you mentioned the Fed, they've been in it since I think they waited so long. First it was transitory, we shouldn't be worrying about it, and then they didn't really do very much about it. And now we are a year later, and oh my God, we're in a rock and a hard place. And that is that we have inflation, which is raging, which is slowing down the economy. Then they're saying, well, inflation's 8.5% core. That doesn't include energy and food, so it's a hell of a lot more than that. Everyone knows that. Just go to the store this weekend, fill up your grocery basket, and it gives you a direct line to your accounting firm to make sure that you can go ahead and pay for it. I mean, I'm starting to sound like something down in Argentina, but the Fed can't operate too fast. I mean, look at the response on Wall Street this week. The Fed didn't do 75 basis points; they did 50. The place went nuts. 900-point gain. It was down dramatically the day before. 900-point gain. What a yin to the yang. So it seems like we are in kind of strange territory. And I got to tell you, I think the Feds are in a really tough spot.
Well, the Fed put itself here actually starting in the summer of 2008. When you open up the monetary spigot like it has never been done before. And let's remember, this is crazy. We're 14 years into this insane, off-the-charts monetary policy that the Fed has been running. They open up, the monetary base, which is currency plus bank reserves, and they've gone insane. And they keep doing, they kept doing QEs along the way, right? Quantitative easing. And now all of a sudden, when you have, supply chain issues, all sorts of constraints on the economy, well, guess what? We've hit that spot where, we've got raging inflation. So, I think half of what, again, the Fed, you're absolutely right, way late as usual. I mean, this is not new that the Fed comes late. We've done a great job. We have inflation. So it's not surprising that they come to the issue late. But, the idea that they want to start reining in the amount of money out there, at least, is good. Now, the interest rate stuff, I tend to have a problem with that. I like when the Fed follows the market rather than it tries to lead the market. I don't think that having the Fed artificially jack up interest rates, quite frankly, and sink the economy is going to be a great answer to our problem. Quite frankly, we need the president and the White House to be freeing up entrepreneurs, investors, and businesses to invest, to innovate, to produce more, right? That's what we need on that side. And on the Fed side, we need them to start following their first primary rule, which is price stability. That's the
hey Ray.
It hasn't changed over the years. It would be great if somebody followed it.
Hey, Ray, we got to take a quick break. We're with Ray Keating, the Chief Economist at Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. Dr. Rothman wants to jump right in here. He's bursting at the seam. He's ready to go. Stay with us. You got to hear from Dr. Rothman just in a moment. We are back here at Made in America. We're so happy that you're with us today. We're enjoying this discussion. It is Small Business Week, very important week. I'm glad that we don't have a Small Business Day, but we have a Small Business Week, because small businesses are so important. We should probably have a Small Business Month, if not a Small Business Year. That's how important small businesses is to every American, to our economy, to our prosperity. Our small businesses.
Well, they're the job creators.
They're always been the cornerstone.
They're the skeleton of the economy,
of
the job creators.
American innovation, keeping us ahead. And boy, we got some really tough competitors out there, and they're coming after us. And we should recognize that and see that for what it is. But Rich, you want to jump in here?
Yeah, when we were talking about the printing of money, and Neil, didn't you write a book about that? Didn't you do something called Conscientious Equity? And we talked about morphine economics.
Well,
to me, that's morphine economics and conscientious equity. What do you think?
Well, that is pumping.
You wrote 20,000 words on it, for God's sake.
80,000 words.
80,000 words.
80,000
right,
words.
that was the prelude.
I remember that, 80,000 words.
80,000 words.
My publisher said it's got to be 80,000 words. Okay, so anyway, you're right. Morphine economics, morphine, I mean, that's what they, when you're really in pain and you're dying, in order to put you at ease, they put morphine in your body, and you get this illusion that you're getting better, but you're not getting better. It's killing you. It's killing you. You're going to die. You think you're getting better. You feel good, but you're actually dying. And that's what quantitative easing is what Ray just mentioned, is that they're pumping morphine into our economy, i.e., a digital currency that they make out of thin air. And everybody thinks that everything is great. Oh, my goodness, happy days are here again. We are growing, we're thriving. But no, this is morphine economics. This is that morphine they're putting into your system, which ultimately will kill you. And Ray, I think that's the analogy of what you're saying.
Yeah, no, you're right. And I still can't figure out, the Fed is somehow taking credit for saving the economy for 14 years now. And I really can't figure out what the effect of this has been, except to create more uncertainty. And now that uncertainty has turned into inflation. But, the last time I checked, when we had, remember we called it the Great Recession for, in 2008, 2009. That recovery was miserable. We were growing at 2%, maybe a little better than 2%. You had people on CNBC saying, wow, we're going to be 2%, and they were excited about it. Last time I checked, our economy on average should be growing at better than 3%. And during recovery and expansion years, better than 4%. We have not seen that since, my goodness, 2000, maybe 5 or something like that? So I'm not quite sure what the Fed achieved other than creating more uncertainty. That's the bottom line. And as I said, once you run into, we ran into this pandemic, we ran into the subsequent supply chain issues and everything. And meanwhile, the money keeps getting pumped in. Well, guess what? Now we have inflation. And as you guys know, right, the inflation genie gets out of the bottle, it's really hard to stuff it back in. Now, again, you had those Kevin Hassett quotes. I'm not quite where Kevin is, and I pray that we never get there. But his point is spot on. We should be very, very concerned about this, and certainly small business owners are.
Well, you know what? We have a good quote from Brian Brenberg from King's College. You want to take a listen to that and see what Stephen Ray says?
He's talking about what the White House is doing to small businesses with inflation. Very appropriate.
You can't escape it. I mean, this is the problem. You can't escape this inflation because it's driven by things like energy prices, which flow into everything. The guy with the chainsaw cutting down the tree, the guy making the salad in Midtown, wherever you are in America, this is going to hit you. The president wants Americans to just start coping with this, to feel like this is okay, this is normal, we can live with this. We don't have to cope with this. This is a political policy mistake that the administration has made, and there's no way we should start adjusting to that and giving into the problem. People need to start pushing back, and a lot are doing that by saying, Mr. President, get it together, especially on energy right now.
So, Ray, I think that's it's pretty astute to me. I think he's kind of nailed it.
Yeah, spot on. If you think back to the 1970s and very, very early 1980s, we were fed the same line. This is it. We just have to live with high inflation and low growth. We have to live with stagflation. That was so many economists. That was the wisdom being handed down, and policymakers were buying into it. And thankfully, though, some key folks like President Reagan and Jack Kemp and some other folks said boulder dash and went with a very different agenda. And quite frankly, that's the agenda we need today. We need pro-growth policies in terms of taxes and regulation. That means tax relief, regulatory relief. Listen, if inflation is too much money chasing too few goods, well, then there's two sides to dealing with this. We have to produce more goods, so that means we have to incentivize entrepreneurship, incentivize investment, and so on. And on the other side, we need a Fed that tamps down on monetary growth. That's the combination. That's what we need in terms of getting this economy back on track.
Well, very good. I mean, and just okay, we got to go.
That was the money shot.
That was the money shot.
That
right
was
there.
a great. He doesn't know it. That was a great money shot. I want you to know that.
But
that's the
we
one that's
can
getting
still.
quoted.
But by tamping down, we can still grow as an economy. Yes or no?
Absolutely. I firmly believe that. You don't have to kill the economy to save the economy. This ridiculous notion. I watch these talking heads on CNBC. Well, we're going to have some real pain here. We're going to have to kill the economy, get rid of inflation. No, you don't have to do that. You have to do a pro-growth policy, as I said, on the tax and regulatory side, and price stability on the monetary side, and bam, we're back on track.
We got to go. Now that's the money shot. Hey, thanks for being with us. Ray Keating from the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. Hey, folks, we still got a lot to talk about. Dr. Rich and I are going to be right back. Welcome to Made in America. I'm your host, Neil Asbury, together with co-host Dr. Rich Rothman. Hey, Rich, we've had a wonderful show today. I've very much enjoyed our two guests. Great conversations, but we still got a lot to go. We still got a very important discussion ahead of us. Time was when as a young person, you'd work hard and you would ultimately, you want that piece of the rock, right? And what was the piece of the rock?
Well, you want to stop renting.
You want to have a home.
You want to build something.
You want
yourself.
That first home.
Yeah.
That was your piece.
Starter home.
Right. In most Americans, I mean, they go through life. What do they have? What do they build their equity and their wealth around?
Their biggest asset is their home.
Is their home, right?
Right. And it means a lot. It's a psychological thing. It's a monetary asset. It's an investment.
Very important.
It's your rock.
It's the rock.
It's the rock.
It's the foundation of the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's the foundation of the American dream. Without having ownership, home ownership for our young people, there can be no American dream. I mean, it's just, they're one and the same. And, I'm very concerned. I mean, right now in America, home ownership is just getting to be out of reach for so many people. And it doesn't mean, you can have two incomes. It's not the old thing, one person can't afford. I mean, two people working full-time can't afford a home these days. I mean, what's happening with property prices and and so forth. Why? Because there's so much dollars swashing around this economy. It's just driven the cost of everything up. I mean, with this inflationary increase.
Well, you know what? And there are other things that we've never had before. And that is now large real estate corporations are buying up many homes as investments. And then they're renting those homes out because they're getting huge rents. And then eventually they'll sell them. So that even takes more off the market. It raises, because there's less product, it raises the cost. And it really hurts. It really hurts. And
well, the
you're
cost
right.
of construction. I mean,
Oh,
the cost
it's
of construction is out of control.
Yes.
So if you're looking for a new home and to construct a new home, well, you're going to have to buy an older home. But you buy an older home, but it's
if
all
you
in
can
relation.
Find the older home,
It's all in
very
relation
hard.
to newer homes. So they're pricing them, because they can get the money. And now inflation is cutting into that, and on top of that, you've got interest rates that are going up, and so
you're in the 5%ers right now for a 30-year mortgage. It was just recently. It was 2.5%.
2.7.
Those days are gone.
Yeah, and certainly with inflation increasing, so you're not going to see 5%. You're going to see 5% probably for a while. So on top of no inventory, on top of high mortgage rates. In the cost of new homes and the construction costs being so high, how will our young people be able to afford a home, that starter home, that beginning home, or a young family who needs another bedroom or two because their family's growing, and but they can't upgrade because of what's happening in this housing market. It's very sad. And Rich, I know it's touched your family. I mean, you have a son. I have a daughter that's trying to buy. Two incomes, they do very well, 2 incomes, but still it's out of reach, and they live in South Florida. It's out of reach in South Florida.
Yeah, well, Philip has the same problem. Philip is many years now with Apple. He has a great job. He's been there since he's been in high school, right through college and post-college. He's been promoted. Just got another promotion. He's on the commercial side. He's on the business side. He's doing really well, thank God. And his wife does really well as the head of marketing for a major corporation. They were planning on buying their starter home. They were all excited to start a family, and they just had to they're going to put it off for another maybe year to see what happens. Because every time they're about to get something, they don't get something. It doesn't happen. It gets priced out of the market for them. And now with the qualifications are changing and the interest rates are going up pretty significantly, that they're rethinking their life plan. So and that's really sad. It's really sad.
And that's and I think that's part of the Biden economy, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%.
It's inflation, high interest. Because of inflation, they increase mortgage rates, and because of Biden putting so many dollars in the market, it's just pushing the price of everything up.
People don't get that.
People can't afford.
The average Joe and Jane don't get that.
They don't connect the dots.
Oh, it was
all
great
of this
getting
free
the
money,
checks,
this free money, this free
you're
money,
gonna pay
this free
for
money.
it.
That's right. I mean, and you're seeing that the young people can't afford a home. A lot of people can't afford a home, not just young people. I mean, it's just impossible for anybody to buy a home, and we see that every day. Very sad. Hey, Rich. Unfortunately, we're out of time. I really enjoyed being with you today. We've had a great show.
This was fun.
This is a fun show.
Yeah, these
today.
were great guests. Really happy. Thanks, Phil.
But unfortunately, we're out of time. But Rich, don't get sad, because we're going to be back again next week for another adventure of Made in America, where we never stop fighting for your jobs.